Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me here.
Oh, so brilliant to see you. So, Dan Astin-Gregory, you are an entrepreneur and speaker.
Yes.
You're the founder of Elevate Media,
Yes, indeed. Well done. Yep.
and you're the chair of Yes Group Bristol, which is where I've met you when I've attended Yes Group Bristol.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's right. And I believe we also have a mutual connections through the fire team with Anthony Robbins as well.
Yes, and the UPW event,
Yes, indeed.
which we're going to in October, I think.
Is it rescheduled for October now? Is it?
I
Yeah.
think it's October.
Good
How are
news.
you doing, Dan?
I'm doing great, thank you. Yeah, feeling
Yeah.
great this morning. I know we were talking briefly offline about coping with the lockdown.
Yeah.
And there was an adjustment period for myself in terms of being able to navigate the changing environment that is presented. But as always, I've fallen back upon my habits and routines that enable me to, remain positively inspired and focused, so that I can continue to do the things that I'm inspired to do.
Amazing. And you've started Elevate as a result of the lockdown.
Yeah, it's a good question. So coming into 2020, I had a vision to put on. Well, yeah, I've had the vision for a long time. I had the vision of putting on an actual physical festival. I have actually put on a small music festival about 10 years ago, which was an amazing fun. But I always wanted to put on a personal growth festival, which was, going to be a 4 or 5 day experiential event with talks, discussions, classes, entertainment, a whole range of participatory experiences. So coming into 2020, that was my goal, approaching into the summer, and started to lay some of the groundwork for that with my company. But then, of course, we had this virus situation emerge, which I closely monitored right from the outset, early in January, because obviously it's important as a business owner to monitor the things that could impact your business.
Yeah.
And then when I finally, when I got back we got married last year. We came back from honeymoon on the 13th of March.
Yeah.
Flew back in from Thailand. And having had really 2 weeks of bliss and peace and fun and sun and laughter out in Thailand, we disconnected from all the kind of mainstream news. We were very aware of what's going on just because of the people we're surrounded with. But when we landed back into Britain on the 13th of March, it was quite clear that the UK had entered into a different stage to 2 weeks prior when we'd left.
Yeah.
So I very quickly made the decision that I wanted to do something to support. I've been in the world of personal development now for 20 years in total, but since 2012 as an independent entrepreneur. And wanted to use my knowledge and contacts to bring inspirational content to keep people uplifted and inspired and focused during the lockdown. Firstly, really to help people have the tools to navigate the changing environment, but then ultimately to carve out space to consider the bigger picture and how you can use this time to find the opportunity and the gift in the lockdown. So we've been running now for 40 days straight. We launched on the 27th of March. Normally something like this would take 3 to 6 months of planning, and but 4 days of planning. Launched on the 5th day. Live with 3 speakers on the first day, and we've been broadcasting every single day since. It's been hugely rewarding, and it's beautiful to see the impact on people's lives that we're creating through Elevate Live.
Brilliant. And you have speakers, you have participatory classes like yoga and fitness, and Lizzie does fitness, doesn't she?
Yeah, so we've had a whole range of classes. Yeah, so my wife Lizzie, she really helped early on. We wanted to really create a schedule of events that give people the opportunity to be inspired and to learn, but also to maintain some of the activities that keep you fired up anyway. So workouts, yoga, meditation. But we've introduced a whole range of other things as well, like breath work and qigong, to give people who may have never tried these things the opportunity to sample some of these activities that give people the gift of trying something new and actually bringing something new into their lives that can actually help them. So yes, Lizzie was exceptionally helpful at the beginning. She became like the resident trainer. But since we've brought trainers from all over the world to support, and really looking forward to expanding that side of things as we move into the next phase of the growth of the platform.
I mean, I've been amazed at doing this. It's not something I've ever thought about doing, and it's not something I would have considered doing. And because of the situation, people are quite open to participating. Yes,
Indeed.
quite open to participating.
Absolutely.
I've just got like the next week booked up.
Amazing.
And it's that thing of like, well, you assume lockdown's going to continue, so you continue to offer stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yes. Yeah. So, when the first lockdown was first announced as a three-week protocol, we were pretty clear at that point that it was unlikely to be just 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And the commitment on Elevate Live's part, and the same with what you're doing here, was to be here daily during lockdown. But the vision is now well and truly for us transcended that, and we're looking a big campaign for the summer months kicking in very soon. So we're working with my team to establish what that's going to look like. But I think a lot of business owners right now are looking for different ways to pivot, and they're using tools like being online and sharing a message in a different way. And I think it's important that, for those people who are using these types of tools, is to think about how does it fit into the overall ecosystem of your business going forward, because it's magic to do these great things during lockdown, but actually the gift is how you can then evolve that and continue that within your overall ecosystem. So it's great to see someone like yourself stepping out and bringing this sort of platform out as well.
Yeah, it's a joy for me, because I'm somebody who I definitely need a purpose, and for me, having my main business shut down because it's high street retail, and I've actually furloughed myself.
Have you? Yes. Yeah.
So there's no way for me that I could just be like kicking around all day. I just would not enjoy that.
Absolutely. I mean, entrepreneurial creative types, stillness is our friend in terms of helping us tap into our intuition and crystallizing our ideas, but actually staying still is not for most of us.
No, not at all. So all of your content is available for free on the Facebook page, Elevate Live.
It is, yeah. So you can find the Facebook page over at Elevate Live. We've got a huge summit platform that we've built, elevatedaily.co, and we're looking at different access models now as we expand it out, because we started with a free pass for everyone to be able to experience it.
Yes.
And then offered an inexpensive all access pass to give people access to now over 100 hours of content.
Wow.
But because we really want to, the whole purpose of this is to elevate humanity, and we've been very conscious in what that means, both in terms of scale, in terms of the level of reach we want to have, but also to really represent humanity, because at the beginning, I started all my contacts in the speaker world, and we tended to be very white European men. So we very quickly balanced that out to bring a better gender balance. But then now it's the case of we want to reflect humanity. So we want to bring speakers in. Absolutely, the full diversity. People from every country, faith, and culture from around the world. We want to feature to really create a global platform. This is something that we're all collectively going through together. It is the virus is non-discriminatory. And we want to create a world which is also free of discrimination. So we're looking to create a reflection of all of humanity through the work we're doing.
Yeah, brilliant. And just a bit about Yes Group Bristol, because that's where I met you. I came to an event. I committed in the summer to attending Yes Group Bristol this year.
Amazing.
And I'm really looking forward to opening again, and that's also available online at the moment.
It is, yes. And thanks for mentioning the Yes Group. So the Yes Group, for those who don't know, Yes Group is the UK's foremost personal development community. It's been in existence now for over 25 years. It began in London with Carl Pearsall and a handful of his friends who, they attended a Tony Robbins event, UPW. We've mentioned that earlier on. It's a life-changing, energetic experience, and you get to meet people. You get to meet people who see the world differently and have common values. And so Carl and his team at the time said, wouldn't it be great if we continued the momentum, continued the vibe, and have the opportunity to continue to meet with like-minded people. So it's not just a long weekend, a fun long weekend. They can actually keep the momentum. That was 25 years ago. Started in a small room in London, and that's now evolved to groups all over the country. In fact, there's groups outside of the UK as well. So we have a group in Bristol where I live. Kindly was offered to take over as chair last year, and we've been running inspirational events every month since, and we have pivoted to online as well. The show must go on, so we look at how we can evolve things, and the events that the Yes Group put on are very experiential. They're very high energy. So we've tried to replicate that as much as we can online, and we're still looking at different ways that we can create engagement. But it's really a positive community which is focused around personal growth and contribution.
Yes.
So for anyone who's watching this, looking for somewhere where you can meet like-minded people and find really great inspirational speakers every single month, there is a group in every city, almost every major city in the UK at least.
Yeah.
Well, I say that out loud. There's actually a lot more cities than there are groups, but within every faction of the UK, there is a group available, and we do look forward to getting back in the room and rocking the events. But for now, we provide a community that you can access online. And
then part of the Yes Group is the Basket Brigade.
It is indeed, yes. And again, Basket Brigade, for people who aren't familiar with that, that's an activity where every year we raise funds and then assemble baskets full of goods for those who are homeless or disadvantaged, which include everything from food to clothing to blankets and all kinds of useful items to help people during the winter months. So we do a lot of fundraising for that, and then we assemble a whole squad of people where we take to the streets and we'll deliver them to organizations and individuals to support during the winter months. I've had a great privilege of being involved in that several years running. I've even done that over in the US as well, which was a wonderful experience to be able to experience how Basket Brigade is run in the US. It's a global cause. You can actually, wherever you're watching this from in the world, you can look for the Basket Brigade Foundation and you'll find the opportunity to get involved in such a worthy activity anywhere in the world. So
amazing.
In fact, it's interesting you mentioned that. I'd be really curious to explore how, in a time like this, how something like the Basket Brigade could operate, because obviously what we do is with the Basket Brigade, it's a very physical event. We typically assemble in a hotel or a large community hall to actually pack the baskets, and then we go out physically and give people these things. And I'm sure come the winter, we'll probably be in a very different situation to where we are now. But actually, it does beg the question: how can we support in these areas under these types of conditions, and actually having contingencies so that good work can continue?
Yeah, there is an organisation here locally based in Stroud, in Gloucestershire, who I'm hoping to have a conversation with.
Awesome.
On the table, and they are cooking meals every day, and either as a customer you can buy meals, but you can also pay extra, and they're distributing meals to families who aren't able to buy enough food.
Amazing.
Families and individuals. And they're also working with so the Nelson Trust locally is a charity working with addictions, with helping people to recover from addictions.
Yes.
And they have a couple of cafes, one in Gloucester and one in Cheltenham. And they have closed their cafes and are using them for food prep.
Amazing.
The project, yeah. So I'm hoping to get someone from there on here to talk about that model.
Amazing.
And help people to donate to that.
I think it's a fantastic initiative. What I truly see with this situation is in the startup world, we talk about first order consequences and second order consequences, which is, if we take this action, the first order consequence is this result, but the second order is what happens as a result of that result. So what we're seeing here in this situation is, there's people will be more financially challenged than they have been previously. There's challenges to get people's mental health and physical health that haven't necessarily experienced that before. So actually the need for this type of work, whether it's food delivery, and we often assume that people in need are of a certain type of have a certain type of background or experience. But actually right now, there could be people that have never experienced hardship that are now experiencing hardship due to these conditions. So I think it's really important that we start to look at these things and figure out how these types of activities can really support people both now and into the next few months and years, because it's going to be a very interesting period beyond this.
Yes, because for people who are self-employed, particularly people who are self-employed and don't have business premises, I imagine it's going to take a while to build that business up again.
Absolutely. But it's not just that, Claire, I was talking to someone just yesterday, work for a major organization. They're going to be laying off 75% of their workforce, 75%. The estate agent, we're currently in the process of buying a new house. The estate agent we're dealing with has already laid off 25% of their workforce. So it's, you know, it's not just affecting people who are self-employed. Was that is very true. Absolutely. You know, that's probably, and there are segments within the business community that have been more deeply affected than others. But it's important to recognize that, you know, the major employers are going through some significant challenges now. There is you know, I have a friend of mine who's a very senior HR leader within a very big corporation, and the future doesn't look very certain at all. So I don't want to be bleak here, because actually there's always going to be jobs, there's always going to be opportunity, and actually this situation is actually creating more. You know, it's a bit like people debate AI. Is AI good for humanity or not? Is it going to take away all our jobs? Well, I don't believe it is. You know, I believe it's going to create more jobs than it destroys. But we need to be mindful that people need to upskill and retrain, and the same is going to be true of this. You know, so there will be positions available, but actually, what it's going to do is create a period of transition where, you know, people really need support getting back into employment and getting back on their feet. And you know, I think what's beautiful about this situation is more than ever we're seeing people pull together and, you know, raise out a hand and an arm to say let's rise up together. So I really hope that continues beyond this situation, so that, you know, we can help people you know, fulfill their ambitions, but also to, you know, to get back into business and gainful employment as soon as possible beyond that.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's been the highlight for you of really rapidly getting this Elevate project going?
Such a big question. That's such a good question. A big question. There's been so many highlights. I mean, every morning I write a gratitude journal, and it makes me so proud. And firstly, I'm very proud of myself, you know, in terms of what I've done here, because and I rarely take the opportunity to experience that. But to turn something from an idea into something of this magnitude very quickly is, I'm very, very, very pleased that I've been able to do that. But every day I write in my journal how grateful I am for the people that have coming in to give their time freely, to share their wisdom, to share their positive intention, and to share material that can help people in this time. And every time I come off a conversation, I always think, my gosh, I wish more people saw that, because there is every time, you know, it doesn't matter how many people have seen it, you know, so every time you think, wow, that was such a powerful conversation. I really need people to connect with that message. So I'm really, you know, I really, really value the people from around the world who are coming together to share that positive message. But then deep appreciation for everyone who's tuning in, you know, the people that are tuning in daily, and sharing the content. But then also, you know, the final thing really is there's some commonalities amongst all the conversations we have around that sense of gratitude and the sense of appreciation for life itself and for the things that we can often take for granted. So that's that deep-rooted sense of gratitude has been woven almost, you know, we had over 75 speakers now, almost woven between all of them. And then also the ability to shift your mindset to see the opportunity in any given situation. To me, that opens doors. You know, once you tune your mind to opportunity and possibility, and, you know, that was a journey I had to go through years ago to actually see that for myself. But what we've got here is a group of speakers who are really promoting the idea of seeing possibility and opportunity. And what that does is it switches your mind to start to look for it. And once you're open to that and you start to look for it, you start to see possibility, you start to see answers, you start to see things that you can do to contribute. You get to see opportunities to make elevatory steps in your own life. So it's really been quite a beautiful experience. I won't say it's been easy. It's, you know, I've been working 10 to 14 hours per day, nonstop, 7 days a week since the 14th of March, without break. So it's been challenging. I've got an amazing team that are working with me, and I'm just deeply grateful. I'm deeply grateful for the people that are taking part and you know, just being able to make a positive difference in this time when the world needs it.
Yeah, fantastic. And when did you first attend Tony Robbins UPW?
2012. I actually had a bit of an, you know, Tony Robbins talks about immersion, you know, immersing yourself into positive content and positive communities, etc. I actually attended 3 Tony Robbins events in the space of 12 months back in 2012. So I attended for the first time in New Jersey. I flew over to the US to attend UPW in America. I did that because I had this perception that, you know, the American culture is kind of deeply entwined into Tony's philosophies, you know, and I wanted to experience the full intensity of a UPW event on home soil for Tony. But what was quite fascinating is when I then came back and went to the event in London as a crew member to support the event. You know, when you brought, there's people coming in from all over Europe, from Italy, Germany, Holland, and all over the world, and you know, that unique blend of human beings and culture in one space from Europe was, you know, that, you know, all my perceptions of what it'd be like in America were destroyed when I came to the European event and just saw how crazy we can be in in Europe too.
Absolutely.
So,
and simultaneous translation into many languages.
Unbelievable. And then I actually went to the Date with Destiny event later that year then. So I flew out to the US again, in California at the time, to go to Palm Springs, where I attended Date with Destiny in December 2012. And that was a truly life transformational event. You know, when you go to UPW, it can be deeply transformational. It's a 3.5-4 day process. But when I went to the Date with Destiny experience, you know, it's 5-6 days long, full out. It really, you know, if you think about the education system, it made UPW feel like primary school, and then you're suddenly leaping forward straight into like university level experience, and it just takes everything to whole new depths. And you know, I made some decisions about my own life in 2012 that have radically shifted the direction of my life. And it positively impacted every area of my life, from, you know, being woefully single to now married to my beautiful wife, to taking no interest in my health and fitness and having no education around nutrition and well-being, to now, you know, being the fittest condition I've ever been in, to be incredibly healthy, you know, starting a business in 2012, leaving my corporate career behind. So I made some big decisions between those events in that year. It was a truly transformational year. And you know, I credit Tony to the extent that he provides tools and resources to enable you to ask those bigger questions and make those decisions. I think, you know, a lot of people kind of go to like gurus for answers, but actually I go for the questions, you know, the questions.
Yeah, it's all about the big questions.
Yes.
And for me, during this time, I've been really grateful that at the beginning of lockdown, I was in a really good space in my life. My business was going really well. I was really fit. I had been taking really good care of my health and nutrition, so that during this period where actually for me, living in a small space, I'm not moving as much as I used to, you know, I'm not. But I feel like I'm still healthy, and even on days where, because I do struggle some days in lockdown, I do. But even on days where I do struggle, I can quite quickly turn that around through action, in a way that I've learned over the past years.
Absolutely. And it's important. I think, you know, and I've gone through the same experience. You know, I'm normally a very active person. What's fascinating as well, a lot of my habits were grounded around certain times of the day and certain locations. So you know, when I woke up in the morning, I have a very set morning routine, which historically would culminate in me going to, you know, physically going to the gym.
Yes.
So actually, when the ability to do that changed, my morning routine got a little shaky for a while, and actually, I'm still trying to adapt it to a place where it's effective without those external touch points. And you know, I do my daily walk and I work out every day at home. But nonetheless, my legs have literally wasted away. You know, like I'm used to being so active. You know, I'm used to being and training in the gym with heavy weights. So you know, I've become very, very slim, which I'm okay.
Abs have wasted away. Actually, I don't do aerial training.
Yeah, so I've been trying to adapt and find ways to replenish the muscle. And I'm cycling a lot now.
I can only apologise for my phone. Like it is switched to silent, but how embarrassing.
That's quite all right. So I'll interject with a little story then. So on Sunday, Sunday was World Laughter Day, and there was this concept that Pete Can is a founder of a company called Canned Laughter, and he came on to Elevate Live to do a laughter yoga session, which is all about getting into that state of joy and laughter. But he came up with this concept of the giggle phone. So actually on Sunday, every time the phone rang, you had to be like, oh, hello? And then just go into a deep laughter like that, you know, to get the biggest laugh you possibly can. So
brilliant.
When the phone rang, I thought about the giggle phone.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. I don't know what's wrong with my phone. I switch it to silent, but it rings anyway.
It's got a mind of its own. It's an independent
thing. It has got a mind of its own.
It's good to be an independent.
So for people who didn't have this in their lives before lockdown and now see a real benefit in it, where would you suggest that they would start in living a more fulfilling and healthier life, I guess?
I think what I've established over the years is really to start by defining what fulfilling means to oneself. You know, what is it that deeply fulfills you, and what is healthy and vital in every area of your life. And it's an interesting process. And we were talking about this with Ryan Pinnock last night, founder of Super Genius. And you know, sometimes when you start to ask the big questions like, what do I love right now? What could be most, for example, if you ask, what is most fulfilling to me right now? You may or may not actually have an answer to that just now. You might not. And I tell a story about a time I was down on the beach. There's actually not far from here, Sennin Cove, down on the coast of Cornwall, where I was in a beautiful place, but mentally I was in a dark place. So I was sat there with my journal and I wrote the question, what am I most happy about? Bear in mind, I'm sat on this beautiful beach, wonderful ocean, surrounded by nature, but I couldn't answer the question. I was in a dark place. I was in a bad place that day. So I had this block, and I asked this big question, what am I most happy about? And I was like, you know, I was in one of those moods. It's like, nothing, nothing. It all sucks. And then I was like, okay, Dan, we know that's not useful. So I changed the question to, what could I be happy about?
Yes.
Just adding, what could I be happy about?
Yeah.
And I just looked up around me and I said, well, I could be happy about the ocean. It looks wonderful. I could be happy at the beach. I could be happy the fact that I'm healthy. I could be happy that my family are healthy. I could be happy that I've got a wonderful girlfriend at the time before she became my wife. I could be happy that, you know, I have access to all these amazing technologies that enable us to do things like this. I could be happy about the fact I have access to food and clean water and all these different things. So all of a sudden, you know, I was like, okay, here's a whole range of things. But then I asked another question, what else could I be happy about? And then that it kind of peels back the layers and it gets you to think deeper. And then the list just flowed then. So, and actually what wonderfully happened, I went from that dark state to a beautiful state, feeling deeply happy and grateful and appreciative, and I was restored. So I think the reason I tell that story is in this time when we're looking for what can we do to find fulfillment.
Yes.
When we ask the types of big questions, sometimes we can't answer it. We're actually, but this is a great opportunity to utilize the space to allow yourself to find those answers and to ask those big questions. So if it's the case of what can we do to become more filled, or what can we do to become more healthy, more happy, joyful, if the answers don't come immediately, think about tweaking the questions. What could I be happy about? What could bring me fulfillment? Because what that does is opens the doors of perception based beyond your current reality. And it's amazing what could come up. You know, in that moment when I was writing what could make me happy, I was like, going skiing. It's like, well, I've never been skiing before, but actually that's come up as an idea. Or paddle boarding. And actually since that moment, I've gone on to have skiing lessons. I've had paddle boarding experiences, ocean-based falling in the water experiences, but it brought me great enjoyment and great joy. So I think use the space to ask those questions, but don't be disappointed if the answers don't come immediately. Because what your subconscious mind will do is it will go to work on the question. And I would strongly recommend to anyone listening to this is to write the questions down, because what happens in your mind is when we're overthinking, what tends to happen is we're asking questions and seeking answers at the same time in the same space. So in order to give our mind the space to actually reflect, if we actually take time to write down the question, we're taking the question out of our conscious mind and we're giving the power to our subconscious mind to then be able to actually answer the question. So what I would recommend is, you know, I start by looking at each area of your life that you want to make adjustments in. And then ask yourself the big questions. What could be most fulfilling in this area? What else could fulfill me? What else could make me happy? And it just expand and don't allow your mind to put restraints in, because, you know, what can happen is, you know, what would I love to do? You might come up with this like dream that's been within you all of your life. And many of us have those moments. So where, you know, it comes to us, I wish I've always wanted to do this. But then the other part of your brain goes, you know, the reason you haven't done that yet is because of this and this and this, and you shouldn't even think about that because you know. So you need to
believe.
Yes, you need to suspend that part. Yeah, use this time to allow, you know, quarantine that part of your mind that says I can't do that. The limiting, the voice that says it's difficult, it's impossible. Go and quarantine that part of your voice. Give it a name and put it to one side, and allow the the curious, free child in you to take control for a few weeks, you know?
Yeah.
And I challenge you to allow that person to remain in control beyond, because the truth is, you know, we're all human beings. We're all of the same flesh and blood. And, you know, those who achieve at the highest level or have fulfillment at the highest level, we're all made of the same stuff. We all sit on our behind. And, you know, it's how we choose to use our mind and our time that determines how effectively we can do that. So we've all got stories from our past. We've all got challenges. We've all had things that have got in the way. But this is a new moment. This is a fresh day. So use it wisely. Begin to ask these big questions, and ask yourself what could make you fulfilled. What else could make you fulfilled? What would you love to do that would enable you to increase your health? And then just start making notes and allow your brain to bring you the answers, and then make some decisions. You know, make some important decisions about how you want to move forward, because you know this is a great opportunity for that.
Yeah, because for a lot of us, those of us who aren't key workers, there is a lot of space at the moment for asking these questions and for making some good decisions as well.
Yes, indeed. And but even those who are, you know, I mentioned I'm working 10 to 14-hour days. You know, those people who are working incredibly hard right now, it's as important that we all carve out space to be grateful, to be appreciative, and to ask these questions, because otherwise life will just pass us by. You know, it's like swimming in the ocean without taking your head up to look at what's around you. And you know, there are a lot of people working really hard right now. You know, I've been doing the Thursday evening clapping to support that, but actually I'm looking to launch something separate to just give applause to everyone who's continued to work, because you know the NHS are doing a great job and the key workers are doing a great job, but actually it's only a very small proportion of the people that are continuing to work flat out during this period of time. So I think it's important that we all acknowledge those people, but actually I think as a humanity, let's, you know, we're all going through a challenge together. Let's give ourselves a pat on the back. You know, so let's have a clap for humanity.
Absolutely.
For getting through this. So, you know, this is something we're planning at Elevate Live. We're going to launch a humanity clapathon. I don't know we need a bit more creativity around the name, but we're looking to start something, because
I love that, because what we need is more less separation.
Yes.
And more unity.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's that's a really interesting point, and it's at a time like this, you know, I believe, you know, certainly in Britain, we've been through, in the last 12 months, we've been through some fairly divisive experiences politically, and now even with this, and you know, you've got the perception around the virus itself, you've got the perception around the response to the virus, you've got the perceptions around other things that are connected, whether it's surveillance, freedom of speech, you know, and all vaccines. There's a whole range of
so many points of view.
And it's been a lesson for me, because you know, I'm a very strong-willed leader, and you know, once I've, you know, I'm very open-minded and curious, and that will lead me to take on huge volumes of information to be able to assess and make a personal judgment around my own views.
Yeah.
But what my higher consciousness is calling me to do now is to deepen my self-awareness around my ability to show love and respect and acknowledgement for all viewpoints, because we are all one, right? And it's I'm on the journey, you know. This is an opportunity for me to master that, because it's very easy to defend our points of view, and it's very much been an ingrained habit of mine to do that, you know. It's but actually my evolutionary path, my elevation from here is to transcend that. That's not to forego my own beliefs and perspectives as a leader, but it is to show love, respect, and acknowledgement for others. But that does not mean I need to accept or take on other people's viewpoints and perspectives. But it does allow me to show love and respect.
I very much agree with that, and I think social media at this time has been such a good teacher of the importance of that.
Yes.
I mean, I just posted a question the other night. It was only a few words. Is anyone going to watch such and such later? And it just kicked off into like nearly 100 comments of people arguing with each other. And I was thinking, well, I know all of you.
Yes.
And I know that if we were in a room together, you'd all get on great, and we'd probably just be dancing to music.
Mm.
And everyone's point was valid. This is the thing.
Yes.
Everyone's point was valid.
Yes. Yes, and that's absolutely right. There is no right and wrong. You know, it's your perception. You know, when it comes to perception and beliefs and viewpoints, everyone is entitled to have their own unique viewpoints. I think that the important thing, I don't have the answers here. I'm exploring this. This has been a great opportunity because you know, everyone's right to have their own view should be respected. You know, even if. You know, I think you may have been referring to a certain broadcast that was taking place at the weekend.
Because we'll get banned.
Yes, but you know, within that realm, there is some fact, and there is some quite interesting stories that you know could easily come out of a child's storybook in the way that it's presented. But either way, you know. It's very difficult to think in this age of potential censorship to think about what does it mean to have free speech and freedom of expression in the context of also protecting people from fake information and disinformation, because you know, but even with that, you know, what is fact today may no longer be fact tomorrow. You know, smoking used to be healthy, right? You know, it used to be certified by doctors as a healthy activity. So, you know, what is true today may no longer be true tomorrow. I have some friends who are incredible mathematicians, like genius level mathematicians. And even what was previously believed to be mathematical fact, and maths is seen to be like the final frontier of impenetrable fact. But you know, throughout history, mathematical concepts have been proved and disproved. So it's very difficult to stand on our laurels and say, this is fact and this is the way it is, because tomorrow it may not be. And you know, so we need to be respectful of that. And we're in this unique time where we're seeing things shut down and censored, and I think that is a dangerous place to be. And I think, but at the same time, I also understand if someone in the world that we live in of influence and social media, if someone has a popularity is often associated with credibility. And you know, if someone is using that platform to share a message that can influence others, and I think we do live in a culture where we have more followers than leaders. That's how we've been brought up. You know, you go to school, you follow the rules of the teacher. You know, we're used to that behavior.
Yes, it's very much instilled into us. Yeah.
So then to instill what I don't think has been instilled so much is the ability to have critical thinking and open-mindedness.
Yes.
You know, when I hear some of the really far out conspiracy theories, I think they should have their right to share them if they wish.
Yeah.
But I try to rely on human judgment to be able to make a decision of is it feasible, plausible, and can you do your own independent thinking to make your own assessment. But I'm not convinced that necessarily everyone takes the time to do that. So I do understand the concerns around freedom of speech, but also I do also appreciate the value of freedom of expression. And it's how we then in really two things. How do we ensure freedom of speech is maintained, but how do we also, back to the previous point, how do we do that in a loving way that's full of kindness and compassion and open-mindedness, so that, you know, collectively we can remain in union as human beings. You know, because if you chunk up a level through consciousness, you know, we talked about this with Will Polston yesterday. You know, if you follow the red football team and your friend follows the blue football team, you may have conflict based upon your team, but then you chunk up a level, you're both football fans. You know, so you can respect each other as football fans, and you chunk up a level, you respect each other as sports fans. Chunk up a level, you respect each other as humans, and then you chunk up another level and think we're just like energy particles in this giant cosmos of the universe. Can we just realize that we have this temporary spiritual experience with this energetic source that has manifested itself in the shape of a physical form, is doing its thing over a period of years and then will disappear?
Yes.
How do we go to that level and just recognize that we are just a collection of energy that is present in all and everything, and accept that and be one with that, and recognize the differences that are what make us uniquely beautiful, without the conflict that comes with it? How we get to that level, I I had the answers, I think I'd be preaching them right now. But the question is there.
Yeah, and that's been a big question for me throughout this, because I started off very intolerant of other people's views, especially of other people. I felt imposing their fear-based views upon me.
Mm.
And I've had to really develop compassion
Yes.
For their stance, which comes from a place of fear. Develop compassion for that, and learn to allow them that.
Yes.
And not to become involved in that, and to allow myself to come from a different point of view.
Yes, absolutely.
Without having to tell them that they're wrong.
Yes, I understand that challenge. I've been through that myself, and I think, I've spent so much of my life living out of my own fears, which restrained me for so long in so many ways. On a personal level, my own inner fears and self-doubts and lack of self-confidence and all these things. I spent so long navigating those fears that I kind of want to protect myself against outside fear. So when I see fear-based behavior or commentary, it's hard for me not to kind of react or respond.
Yes, absolutely.
Because I'm trying to protect myself from that. But I think what the beautiful thing that you said there, which is really important to recognize, is, and Lizzie, my wife, and I have been looking at compassion as a notion, and we found some exercises that we can go through to deepen and develop compassion. And one of the key principles is to be able to detach from the actual conversation around what's happening and go to the core emotion which you've experienced there. Because actually, when you see it for what it is, someone in fear, someone who is afraid, you then, it's like that beautiful image that I've seen several times of two adults sat back to back because they've clearly had an argument, but there's two children on the inside with their hearts trying to connect because they're afraid,
Yes.
And it makes me emotional thinking about it, because all those people, I have been through that and I've challenged people. But when you strip it back, it's someone who is deeply afraid, but they're not necessarily portraying it from their heart emotion. But if you strip it all back to what's actually happening, you've got someone who is either afraid for their own well-being, their loved ones, or for the safety of humanity. But when you strip it back to that, we're all on the same page. Those who question the reality are on the same page. We've kind of got to a place where those who question are immediately bagged into the same box as conspiracy theorists somehow. Whether you're questioning like the safety of 5G, or you're questioning the validity of vaccines, the virtue of questioning something is now almost being put in the world of, you are a conspiracy theorist. Or the strange words that I've learned about over the last few weeks, tinfoil hat wearing. I've never come across these terms. But we're on the same side. We are one race, one kind, who all want to live a healthy, sustainable life. But it is important to be able to see those in fear, but it's also important to be able to see those who do willingly ask questions, because throughout history, it's those who ask questions that advance our understanding of the world. And it's important that those in fear aren't demonized, and it's important that those who ask questions aren't demonized. We must get that place of loving respect.
And important to remember where the terms come from, because the terms are important.
Yes.
The term conspiracy theorist, that's a tabloid newspaper term. And it's important to remember that, and that different people have different paths in life, and some people's path is to question things, and some people's path is to protect and to be someone who's responsible for someone who's got health vulnerabilities is a completely different thing. Someone who's interested in the wider picture of human freedom, freedom of thought, freedom of expression, and also freedom of movement has come into question during this time, and it is a big question, and yes, it's something that we have to be mindful of in the months and years to come.
Absolutely. I mean, in terms of this situation, we're looking at bringing a whole series of debates potentially to Elevate Live on this, and started looking at the human rights that have been impacted by this situation itself and the lockdown, the response. And there is, I think it was around 10 or 11 human rights that have been in some way infringed upon by this situation. But it's rationalized and justified by the fact that it protects the right to life, which is the ultimate human right.
So of course, we all want to protect the rights.
Absolutely. But the question is always, without getting into starting another debate, it's around about to what level has our right to life been threatened by. I think that's what science and the medical community really is trying to establish right now, because. Yeah. That again, open-minded debate, science is always based upon a hypothesis and a series of experiments which lead to an outcome which can then be tested and validated and revalidated and tested again with new hypotheses. And I suppose the global argument is we haven't really had that truly scientific approach to the situation. And as we unfold this thing, we're going through that. So naturally, we then look at what is the impact of those measures and how is it infringed upon or impacted upon our overall human rights, even things like rights to education, yes. Rights to peaceful assembly, rights to expression, rights to family gathering, the human right, there is a human right around the family unit, which has obviously been impinged upon by this situation. So, this is a wide-ranging, unique moment in time that has affected our lives in ways that we've never experienced before. So again, of course, coming back to our original point, there's a lot of discussion around it, but I think it is important to be open-minded around the discussion around it in order to find answers. Because if we don't ask questions, then how do we ever find answers?
Yeah, and it's important to be able to ask big questions like, Does questioning the methodology involve disrespecting the safety of others, which actually it doesn't.
No.
But there's a perception that it does.
Mm.
There's a perception that you can't respect lockdown without questioning human rights.
Yeah, and it comes to it's difficult. I mean, because if you think about basic psychology around it, there is a lot of psychology at play here. From the very beginning, you were told. I mean, the way that a mind forms a belief, it's through two things. It's either repetition or emotional intensity, or both. So if you think about this situation, in order to form a new belief, if we need to be exposed to the same thing over and over, or have something that happens as a level of emotional intensity, we've got both every single day. Intense repetition of a message, intense emotional intensity around it. So very quickly, beliefs are formed around the situation. Now, what deepens that, once you form a belief, what it can happen is it can become an identity level. It can actually become entwined with who we are. And the way that happens is when we act in accordance with that belief, repeatedly. So if you think about it, we're told we've got to do we've got to lock down, we've got to go home, we've got to stay home, save lives, protect the NHS. The mantra that we hear in the UK over and over again. So we get repetition, but we also get the fear around the media presenting imagery and statistics on a bombardment level, literary bombardment level, which is then magnified through social media. So we get this constant reinforcement of a message and a narrative, which takes us into an emotional state, plus repetition, but then we act in accordance with it by following the rules, by staying home. And once we start to act in accordance with the belief enough times, it can become part of our identity, is who we are. So once something becomes identity level beyond just a belief, then it's actually very difficult to then be able to see another way. Because again, taking it back to the analogy a minute ago, if you're a football fan and all your life you've been following the same team, and then suddenly someone tries to get to support someone else, you're like, no way, mate. I'm a blue through and through, or yellow in my case. So to actually get someone to change their perspective when it's reached identity level is very difficult. So collectively, and again, there's no blame apportion to this. It's psychology. We've reached a point where our beliefs have been formed to exposure to a certain narrative from often singular sources, and that we've taken action in accordance with it. So naturally it's deepened our belief, and potentially for some people become identity level. Once it's that level, it's very difficult to question it. And what happens is when people question it, then it's like questioning who someone is and their integrity. And that's why we see these blown up responses, because people are afraid that you're actually questioning not only the reality of the external situation, but their integrity as a person, because it's become part of their identity. So in order for us to get beyond that, it's very, very difficult, because, and Claire, you know, in the next month or so, trust me, and I've been saying this for a while, and it's starting to happen already, the mainstream media will turn its attention to the kinds of questions that have been asked from the scientific community from the beginning, which is around, you know, was it the right move? Yes. Did we overreact? Did we act on science? Do the tests work? All the questions that people are asking right now, which is causing controversy. Yes. Within 4 to 6 to 8 weeks, the mainstream media, because if you look at the trajectory of the virus, it's reached a point where it is, you know, flattening right. It's descending. It's very much decreasing rapidly. So there's only a certain point the media can follow that narrative, and they then have to turn their attention to what happened before us. But when that happens, again, if you think about what we've just said in reverse, you've then got authority repeatedly asking a different question, which then enables people to then unravel their own beliefs and then potentially make adjustments to their own identity. Yes. But it takes that.
My big question is, how are we going to start behaving in a more usual, I suppose, manner socially?
It's difficult, and I think you know, people will make their adjustments in their own way. And, you know, I think, you know, my viewpoint and my philosophy around this is I think we will exit it in the same way that we entered it, which is that people will follow what others do. So, you know, even the most cautious people, when it comes back to restoring day-to-day life, I think once enough people see enough quote unquote people doing normal things, people will then immediately assume that it's okay to do so and also join in. So I think it will unravel as quickly as it wound up.
Yes.
As soon as the restrictions enable us to do that. But I think beyond all of that, regardless if that's right or wrong, and my projection of what may or may not happen, the point is, it is the virtue of being open-minded and asking critical questions. I believe in every way is an important skill. If you think throughout history, whether it's looking at the political environment, the medical industry, the pharmaceutical industry, the technology industry, if we didn't ask questions, we could be in a whole heap of trouble. And actually, there's been plenty of times in the world where we have ended up politically, certainly, in tragic situations because people went along with leaders and dictators who went unquestioned because people were just following orders. If you look at any cult formation or dictatorial leadership, if you go back to Nazi Germany, senior officials would just say we were just following orders. We were just doing what we were told. But that doesn't make it right.
Yeah.
So, you know, sometimes when we're following orders, it is still important to ask questions and be willing to step up. And by the way, just to be very clear, I'm not comparing the situation to Nazi Germany. I'm not. I'm just using
the importance of questioning authority.
Yes.
Critical thinking.
Yes. And it's not from an anarchic tear down the government, teenage rebellion level. It's from a simple open-minded critique of what information has been presented to us. And I think it is useful to have a healthy skepticism around anything when it involves big pharmaceuticals, because there is a financial agenda that comes with that. But again, that's not criticized. I have amazing friends who are doing amazing advancements in that world. I'm not criticizing big pharmaceuticals. I'm just saying it's important to be open-minded with any area.
It's an important question because if, as a humanity, we want to concern ourselves more with health, then there are big questions around access to food and food.
There is, and health's a fun subject because the answers have kind of been there for millions of years. And
that's for me one of the first sponsored runs that I ever did. So that one of the first fundraising activities that I ever did was to run a 38-mile marathon when I was a teenager for Water Aid.
Nice.
Water Aid then, it was Oxfam, for clean water. And people still actually don't have access to clean, a lot of people still don't have access to clean drinking water. And a lot of people still don't have access to enough food to meet their nutritional requirements.
Yeah.
And yeah, those are big questions.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, again, this, I really do personally see this as an opportunity to look at the world and think about, I really do think it's an important time to think about what is the new world look like? You know, how would we like to evolve and elevate beyond here? What changes do we want to see in the world? When I see the beautiful imagery of the pollution being dissipated and these wonderful clear images of the water around the world and the air around the world, you know, as much as, you know, I would like to return to quote unquote life as normal, I kind of want to hold on to give the planet a bit more breathing room.
Yeah,
to enable it to recover and heal, because, you know, this is a time for humanity to heal and recover, but it's also a time for the world to heal and recover. And some of the bigger questions, I think, you know, again, my team and I have been looking at this, is how do we address the present moment in terms of, which has always been the goal for Elevate Live, is how do we address the big questions at the present moment presented by the circumstances, but actually then how do we chunk up to the bigger questions around, you know, how do we truly elevate humanity and how do we truly enrich the world? Because this is the space now where we can actually reflect upon our decisions and the way that we've lived. Yes. And heed the lessons. And it's down to us, you know, it's down to the people to make those decisions, because you know, we hold the key to the future from here. And it's a beautiful, wonderful opportunity to look at how we can enrich the world from here, how we can live more connectedly, how we can live from love and unity and joy and peace as a human race, but how we can then really take care of the world that we live in and really take care of each other.
Yeah. And respecting each other is the beginning of that.
That is the beginning. You know, they say charity starts at home. I use the phrase change starts at home. In order for us to become more loving, compassionate, joyful, playful, peaceful, we've got to embody that ourselves, you know, because if we embody it, we radiate it to others. And it starts with, you know, it's when we're putting it outside saying the world needs to do this. Actually, no, it's often the case that we need to do this. We first need to do that, because if we become, you know, a self-actualized version of ourselves who is in pursuit of freedom, peace, love, joy, compassion, kindness, and these higher virtues, and we embody them, then we are part of the change, and we can then we can lead the change by doing that. It's when we start to look outside us and say the world is lagging. No, we are lagging. We need to step up as leaders and be the ones that carve that path by living in accordance with those highest virtues and what I call the sublime states.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Dan, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Such an uplifting conversation, and I knew it would be. Cool.
Yeah, fascinating chat. I just wish I'd brought a cup of tea along. This feels like a morning tea chat.
Tea?
Nice.
Say to bring tea. Yeah.
Nice. Oh, I missed that. Yeah, I'd already had a strong coffee, so I thought I'd just bring a water this morning.
Yeah. Well, good luck with Elevate Live.
Thank you very much.
And I'll see you at Yes Food Bristol. I must join the online thing, actually.
Please do. Yeah, we're just putting our event together for the 28th of May. We're just getting that hooked up, so we'll watch the space on that one.
I'll subscribe. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay. Thanks, Dan.
My pleasure. Lovely to see you.
Great work. Have a good day.
Keep doing what you're doing. This is great stuff.
Thank you, Dan. Bye.
Peace and love.